वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णो वन्दे जगद्गुरुं श्रीकृष्णो वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु. Pranams from Dr. R.J. Kalpana. Welcome to the study of the Bhagavad Gita. In this session, we will continue with our study of Chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga. Shloka 26. Among all trees, I am the Ashwatha. Among the celestial sages, Narada. Among the Gandharvas, Chitraratha. And among the Siddhas, I am sage Kapila. There is a deep spiritual secret in this tree called Ashwatha. We will look into that aspect in the later chapter, but for now, the Ashwatha tree has been identified by Krishna as being a predominant factor in the divine cosmogenesis. It is held to be the ruler of the kingdom of plants, and it is the most sacred of all trees. And that is why in every Hindu temple, in the compound of every Hindu temple, a peepal tree is always present. Everybody worships the peepal tree. Mulato Brahma, Madhyato Vishnu, Agata Shiva Rupena, Vriksha Rajyate Namaha. At the roots is Brahma, the trunk is Vishnu, the branches are Shiva. And this king of trees, I bow my head to you. Scientifically, every aspect of this tree, the leaves, the fruits, the roots, the bark, every aspect of this tree is used for medicinal purposes in the science of Ayurveda. Among the celestial sages, Krishna identifies Narada. As we know, Narada is the chief of Devarishis, a highly enlightened soul, an expert in all mantras. Now, Gandharvas are a particular class of celestial beings. They are considered to be highly attractive, and these Gandharvas are also celestial musicians. And amongst these celestial musicians, there are Ha-ha, Hu-hu, Vishwavasu, Tumbura, Chitraratha, and others. And Krishna identifies Chitraratha as being the ruler of the Gandharvas. And finally we come to Siddhas. A Siddha is considered to be one who has attained supernatural powers of all kinds in both the physical and the astral planes, and also is fully endowed with yama and niyama, noble virtues, righteousness, a high moral code of honor. And amongst the Siddhas, Kapila is considered to be the foremost of them all. And therefore the Lord calls sage Kapila his own self. Shloka 27. Among horses, know me to be the celestial horse, Uchchaishrava, begotten of the churning of the ocean, along with nectar. Among mighty elephants, Airavata, and among men, the king. So, these two animals, the horse and the elephant, Uchchaishrava and Airavata, both made their appearance only in the Kurma avatar phase of the cosmic cycle, where the Devas and the Asuras churned the ocean of milk. In their quest for nectar. Now, let us understand this slightly in terms of science, and I will give you a hint. This was the time period where there was a great rearrangement, realignment of the cosmos that led to its churning. So there was a frenzy of activity that took place at that time period, where planets imploded, exploded, planets were being formed. There was constant churning of the Milky Way galaxy. And amongst of these churnings, out came the animals, the horse and the elephant. The nectar that was essentially fought upon by the Devas and the Asuras is this nectar of divine wisdom. Of course, we all know how the story of the Kurma Avatara ended. And there is also another deep spiritual secret hidden in this shloka when he talks about the nectar. It is that nectar not just of divine wisdom, but it is also the nectar that is much sought after by the yogis and the sages on their path, because of course they seek union with the divine, but it is also that nectar that drips from the back of your throat directly into your very being, that sustains the soul, the physical body. Shloka 28. Before we move to Shloka 28, the last point in Shloka 27 is amongst the men, Krishna identifies as the king, primarily because of good governance. The king has to exhibit divine power more so than the ordinary man. There is more riding upon the king in terms of good governance, and therefore the king has to be exceptionally devoted to his duty, has to demonstrate exceptional leadership skills, in his ability to inspire his men and guide them and bring them and harness the resources of his kingdom and yoke them to one single purpose. Shloka 28. Among weapons I am the thunderbolt, among cows I am the celestial cow, Kamadhenu. I am the sexual desire which leads to procreation, as enjoined by the scriptures. Among serpents I am Vasuki. So now here Krishna identifies the thunderbolt, Vajrayudha, as the weapon. Now, there is a very interesting story about the thunderbolt. Indra, in his defending of Swargaloka, which is constantly under invasion and threat of invasion by the Asuras, once facing a particularly difficult challenge, rushes to Brahma and requests him for help. And Brahma directs him to Vishnu, and Vishnu points him towards Dadichi Maharishi in Bhuloka, who is in deep meditation. And Vishnu says, the spine of Dadichi Maharishi is endowed with exceptional spiritual powers as a result of his dedication to meditation. Approach him. That is the only weapon that can be used to defeat the Asuras. And so Indra approaches Dadichi Maharishi in his hermitage and respectfully requests from him his spine and presents to him the problem that Swargaloka faces and how Vishnu suggested such an outcome. And therefore Dadichi Maharishi willingly gives up his life so Indra can take the spine of his physical body and use it as a weapon. And thus came Vajrayudha, the thunderbolt. And if you look at the iconography of this particular weapon, you can see how it has little nodules for the vertebrae of the spine. So among cows, I am the celestial cow Kamadhenu. We are all familiar with the cow of plenty, over which wars have been fought and in many ways are still being fought. The cow that can satisfy the desires of gods and men was also got during the churning of the ocean of milk. And therefore we consider cows to be sacred. I am the sexual desire which leads to procreation. The divine is the eternal seed. The Purusha in the Prakriti that brings forth life. And therefore it is but natural progression that is considered to be the sexual desire. Now, Krishna here gives us a caveat as enjoined by the scriptures. So, sexual desire as prescribed by the scriptures, not the aberrations that we see in today's modern society, but strictly that which is wielded for the procreation of humankind. And amongst serpents, he identifies Vasuki as being divine. Vasuki is the longest of serpents and was used as a rope during the Kurma avatar. Now, we have to understand one very important factor here, so I'm going to take a little bit time to digress. Ever since Western society turned their eyes to India, we have been abused in countless ways. And in one of those ways, we have been labeled as a society of snake worshippers. And let me now tell you the reason why we worship snakes. It is the snakes who are the first teachers of the human race. It is these snakes, these celestial entities who came from their dimension, taking pity on the human race that was blinded and lost in this world of matter, having so disconnected from the soul that they generously shared their learnings and they accorded us with great wisdom and knowledge. They were the first teachers, and therefore we always bow our head in gratitude, in reverence to our first teachers. Who set us on the path of Dharma. Shloka 29. Among Nagas, I am Ananta. Amongst aquatic creatures, I am Varuna. Among the mains, I am Aryama. And among rulers, I am Yama. Now, Ananta, again, another name that we are all very familiar with, because Ananta is always seen depicted as the serpent couch upon which Vishnu is seen reclining in Hindu iconography. And Ananta is also known as supporting the entire globe on its head. Very much like Atlas holding the world on his shoulders. Now, Varuna, amongst the waters, all the water bodies of this world, Varuna is identified as being the guardian of the water bodies, a celestial being, and presiding over a quarter of the universe. And therefore, Krishna identifies Aruna as being part of the divine self. Now, amongst the mains are the ancestors. Now, there are 7 principal mains: Kavyavaha, Anala, Soma, Yama, Aryama, Agnisvathas, Barhishats, and therefore Aryaman, being the head of the Pitrus, is recognized as the best of them. Now, Yama is not recognized amongst the mains because Yama has a different purpose. He is the god of death. exceptionally righteous and salutary in character. He is the guardian of a quarter of the universe, and he is the god of death of the celestial as well as the mortal worlds. Shloka 30. Among the Daityas, I am the great devotive Prahalada, and among reckoners, I am Time. So among quadrupeds, I am the lion, and among birds, Garuda. Now, Daityas is said to be spiritual entities, and Hiranyakashyapa belonged to this class of Daityas, and they are exceptional in their spiritual austerities. They have exceptional capabilities, far, far more so than a mere human can even dream of achieving. And amongst the Daityas, Krishna identifies with the young devotive Prahalada, who withstood even the arrogance of his father and only chose to utter the Lord's name and only considered Vishnu as the divine, which led consequently to his father Hiranyakashyapa asking, "You say your Narayana is everywhere. Is he here, in my throne, in this hall, in this pillar?" And Prahalada smiles and says yes. And when Hiranyakashyapa, out of a fit of rage, breaks the marble pillar down, out steps the Narasimha Avatara. Among reckoners, I am Time, one who is timeless, who is beginningless. The very concept of time came forth from him. He brought forth time out of his own will, and therefore he is time and eternal. Among quadrupeds, Krishna identifies the lion, the king of the beasts, the strongest, the boldest, the bravest, and the most noblest of creatures. Among birds, Garuda, the king of eagles. Now there is a very interesting factoid about eagles. What happens when an eagle turns old? It flies up to the highest of mountains, far, far above humans, far above even birds cannot fly to such heights. It goes so far up into the cliffs, and there, on top of those mountains, it sits and it plucks out ruthlessly every feather that it has, and then it strikes its beak against the cliff wall until the beak breaks, and then it stays on the mountain top. It waits for the feathers to grow back, for the beak to grow back, and then once more it rides the winds again. Shloka 31. Among purifiers, I am the wind. Among warriors, I am Sri Rama. Among fishes, I am the shark, and among streams, I am the Ganges. Now, the wind is considered to be the best of purifiers because it possesses not just speed, but also it has the ability of distance. At one brush of wind, it can scatter impurities as far, far away the four corners of the earth. Amongst warriors, Rama, once again Krishna declares another Avatara Purusha as the chief amongst warriors, because unhesitatingly during Rama's period he was called upon to demonstrate his warrior skills in protection of the people of his kingdom, in protection of the seers and sages who wanted to continue undisturbed their spiritual practices, and who was called upon for good governance to establish dharma. And here, amongst the fishes, the crocodile is declared to be his own self. And amongst streams, I am Ganga. There is a very interesting story about how Ganga came into being in Vamana avatar, when Vishnu, in the form of Vamana, the young brahmacharya, approaches Mahabali and asks for 3 measures of land. With 1 measure of land, with 1 foot, he covered the earth, and the 2nd foot he raised to cover the heavens. The celestials, startled by this appearance of this form of the divine, didn't know how to handle it. And Brahma, noticing the figure of Vishnu, he poured water from his kamandalam and washed that foot of the Lord that was raised up. And that water, sanctified, became Ganga. And therefore, we always have our bath in the Ganga, because it is said to wash away our sins, because it has been sanctified by the divine itself. It contains all the divine vibrations. Shloka 32. Arjuna, I am the beginning and the middle and the end of all creatures. Of sciences, I am the science of the soul. In disputants, I am the right type of reasoning. And so here, Krishna once again says that I am the beginning of the creation. I am also the dissolution, the end of creation. And everything that happens between the beginning and the end, I sustain the middle. That too I am. And of all the sciences, Brahma Vidya, the science of the soul, and in the types of disputations, in logical reasoning, Krishna says that I am the right type, reasoning with the pure motive of arriving at the right conclusion, not reasoning merely to prove another opponent wrong, not reasoning to establish one's own superiority, irrespective of whether one is right or wrong, but that reasoning which has the purest of motive in the interest of learning to arrive at the right conclusions. Shloka 33. Among the sounds represented by the various letters I am A, of the different kinds of compounds in grammar, I am the copulative compound. I am verily the endless time. I am the sustainer of all, having my face on all sides. So amongst sounds, Krishna identifies himself with A, the sound represented by the first letter of the alphabet. And if you break down Om, the divine cosmic vibration of the universe, as Akara, Ukara, Makara, the Akara becomes the divine. And in grammar, it is the copulative compound which is considered to be the best, because all its components carry equal emphasis. And of course here Krishna says that he is the endless time, he is time itself, and that he has his face on all sides, meaning he is everywhere, he is omnipresent, he is all pervasive. Shloka 34. I am the all-destroying death that snatches all, and the origin of all that shall be born. Among women, I am Kirti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, and Shama. Now, Krishna identifies in the previous shlokas as saying that I am the beginning, the end of everything. And therefore, he also identifies himself as Yama, the god of death. And so once again, he's saying the very concept of death. That too I am, the mortality of this field that we are all living in, that is Krishna. And he is also the origin of all that shall be brought forth once again at the time of creation. Amongst the women, Krishna identifies himself with the goddesses presiding over glory, prosperity, speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and forbearance. Shloka 35. Likewise among the Shrutis that can be sung, I am the variety known as Brihat Sama, while among the Vedic hymns, I am the hymn known as Gayatri. Again among the 12 months of the Hindu calendar, I am the month known as Margashirsha. Among the 6 seasons, I am spring. Now in Samaveda, there are a variety of tunes or a variety of compositions, meters by which they can be sung. And amongst that variety, the Brihat Sama, which is peculiarly used to sing the glories of the divine, and that is known as Brihat Sama. And Krishna identifies himself with that. Amongst the Vedic hymns, the hymn of Gayatri is very well known amongst us, and we all know why Gayatri mantra is so important. It's known as the mother of the Vedas. Amongst the months, Margashirsha is considered to be the most important one. The Margashirsha month is approximately the month between December and January, what we popularly known as Dhanurmasam or Margali, because this is the time where the gods and the humans meditate. This is the dawn for the gods, where they wake up before sunrise in order to sit in meditation. And humans, we observe fasts and praise and prayers during this month for our own spiritual evolution, because meditating in the same environment where the gods themselves sit and meditate at this time brings us that much more closer to the divine. And of course, the spring is considered to be the best of all seasons. Shloka 36. I am gambling among deceitful practices and the glory of the glorious. I am the victory of the victorious, the resolve of the resolute, the goodness of the good. So here Krishna talks about gambling as amongst deceitful practices, because it is only in gambling, much like there is no, it's just a matter of chance. There are no cheat codes, no shortcuts. The glorious of the glory, the Tejas, the victories. So he identifies with all the positive aspects as much as he talks about the negative, the deceitful practices. And even in the deceitful practices, he identifies with the best of it, which does not involve any underhanded dealings. Shloka 37. I am Krishna among the Vrishnis, Arjuna among the sons of Pandu, Vyasa among the sages, and the sage Shukracharya amongst the wise. And so here, Vrishnis is the lineage in which Krishna took birth in amongst Vasudeva. In that lineage, he identifies himself with that lineage, and as the son of Vasudeva. He identifies himself as Arjuna also, because of the exceptional etiquette Arjuna has displayed in receiving, in creating this environment, or in gently prompting Krishna to move from the role of a friend to a guru to that of a divine. Vyasa amongst the sages, because Vyasa is someone who classified the Vedas and who gave a systemic study of the Vedas to humans. And amongst the sages, Shukracharya, a son of Bhrigu, he was the only sage who was capable of, who knew the science of reviving the dead, to bring the prana back into the one who is dead. Shloka 38. I am the subduing power in rulers. I am righteousness in those who seek to conquer. Of things to be kept secret, I am the custodian in the shape of reticence, and I am the wisdom of the wise. And so therefore here Krishna says that deterring the unrighteous and unruly element, urging them towards right actions, that power of the rulers, that constant alertness at the slightest sign of insubordination, that power Krishna identifies as being divine. I am righteousness in those who seek to conquer. That which is just, that war which is not indulged in purely for ego or greed, but used for a righteous purpose, to seek justice, to establish dharma, that is the divine quality. And Krishna here talks about being the concept of reticence, the most secret of secrets. Without restraint over speech, it is exceptionally difficult to preserve a secret. And that wisdom of the wise, that is also divine in nature. Shloka 39. Arjuna, I am even that which is the seed of all life, for there is no creature, moving or inert, which exists without me. Again here Krishna talks about being the eternal, imperishable seed of life. Shloka 40. Arjuna, there is no limit to my divine manifestations. This is only a brief description by me of the extent of my glory. And therefore, this shloka answers any questions that we might have as to why the divine has been so selective in identifying only certain aspects and letting go of the others. And therefore Krishna answers our question by saying that this is only a brief purview of my glory. Shloka 41. Every such being as is glorious, brilliant and powerful, know that to be a part manifestation of my glory. And therefore every living being endowed with even one of these qualities, know that they are all part of the manifestation of the divine effulgence. Shloka 42. Or what will you gain by knowing all this in detail, Arjuna? Suffice it to say that I stand holding this entire universe by a fraction of my yogic power. And so finally Krishna says, what is the purpose of my divulging all my glories to you, Arjuna? Let us just say that this entire universe is sustained by just a fraction of my divine potency. It's not even the full potency of the divine, but a mere fraction. Om Tatsadita Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayan Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamodhyayaha. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna ends the 10th chapter titled The Yoga of the Divine Glories. Om Yogesham Satchidanandam Vasudevam Rajapriyam Dharma Samstapakam Veeram Krishno Vande Jagat Gurum. Shri Krishno Vande Jagat Gurum. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.